Cheng Dalei asked whether any container had ever developed self-awareness. Meng Fuzi said no. He had lived for centuries and had never seen such a case, and as far as he knew, nothing like it had appeared since ancient times. Hart held enormous power and authority, yet she had a complete and independent mind of her own. Even so, she remained attached to Cheng Dalei. His strength had reached the limit of what a mortal could attain, but he was still a mortal in essence. A mortal was supposed to have many desires, yet Hart could restrain those desires and keep him from slipping into corruption. One side was close to the immortal, the other was completely human, and the two checked and influenced each other in a way that seemed unusually complete. He wanted to know why that balance existed at all. He felt that meeting Meng Fuzi had already given him important clues, and that those clues might lead him closer to the deeper truth behind the system. He said he would explain his own reasons later because he still had too many questions, and he asked Meng Fuzi to continue. Cheng Dalei said he had searched across the world for records of containers, but he had found very little, so he asked where they originally came from. Meng Fuzi told him there was a reason ordinary people could not find many books or records on the subject. For hundreds of years, the Academy had deliberately erased traces of containers. Even so, Meng Fuzi admitted that he still did not fully understand their origin. The Academy had spent generations gathering ancient texts from all over the world in search of clues. From what they had found, records of containers might go back as far as the chaotic age when Pangu created heaven and earth. According to Meng Fuzi, that power was born from chaos itself. Cheng Dalei said that from everything he understood, the spirit behind it was a powerful but chaotic existence. It had no true awareness, remained ignorant by nature, and stood very close to the root of the world. Because of that, it could draw on a force similar to creation itself. He knew that this power would continuously attach itself to a particular object, and whoever obtained that object could gain a godlike ability that made wishes seem achievable. Such a person would often go on to accomplish major things. Meng Fuzi said the power itself had no concept of right or wrong. It did not care about cause and effect, life and death, good and evil, justice or principle. It simply existed in disorder, and as long as its host possessed strong desire and enough thirst, it would answer that host. Every few years or every few decades, its essence would leave the person or object it had occupied and transfer elsewhere. No one knew how that transfer happened, but the process always left traces of its power behind. In different ages, people gave those traces many names, including immortal artifact, magic treasure, dharma artifact, elixir, and gu god. Meng Fuzi now called it a tool. Cheng Dalei called it a container. Cheng Dalei said he had first heard the word container from the lottery machine. What it told him back then was slightly different from Meng Fuzi's explanation. Hart said the reason was simple. It was not that she failed to understand what the lottery machine had said. The real problem was that during her dormant period, Cheng Dalei had only been strong at a very ordinary level by comparison. If the machine had urged him from the start to search for a container of the greatest beginnings, it would only have sent him to his death. The safest choice was to guide him toward ownerless containers that still retained power. Cheng Dalei realized that the lottery machine seemed to understand the system's secrets more deeply than Hart did. Hart said that the lottery machine was the first function of the system that she had awakened into self-awareness. At the time, she had been in a vague and muddled state. She only felt that the system space was too empty, so she casually wanted a few companions. She still did not know what exactly caused that awakening. Cheng Dalei then looked toward the other self-aware nation's fortune dragon body. Inside the system space, those beings had been playing with each other. He understood that the lottery machine was not simple at all, and he quietly thought over what that implied. Hart apologized for falling silent, then told Meng Fuzi to go on. Meng Fuzi said that under the influence of this power, the ancient world had been far more chaotic and dangerous than they could easily imagine. A beast that swallowed a container, or had such power as part of its own body, would become an extraordinary beast. Many such creatures were recorded in the classic of mountains and seas. Most of them did not survive for long. They killed each other, and in the end, only scattered remnants of their souls remained. Hart immediately thought of Tao-Ti. Meng Fuzi said, extraordinary beasts were only one part of the problem. Ancient tribes also saw the constant appearance of evil deities, which meant humans who had obtained containers. These were container holders. Different groups called them gods, immortals, Buddhas, saints, Taoist ancestors, shamans, or demons. They called themselves divine beings, but In reality, they slaughtered their own kind and devoured souls to strengthen themselves. Brutal blood sacrifice and human sacrifice became their preferred rituals. Hart explained that this power was not about immortal cultivation in the usual sense, nor about gathering the spiritual energy of heaven and earth for oneself. It fed on mortal souls. Human joy, sorrow, fear, and suffering were the source of its strength. Cheng Dalei added that among all human emotions, fear was the oldest, strongest, and easiest to draw out. Meng Fuzi said those so-called deities did nothing but exploit mortals. Mortal pain and terror also became the source that pushed people toward demonic transformation. In the end, there was no true ascension, no freedom, and no real gods or goddesses. There were only deranged beings driven by endless desire. In that age, countless container holders ruled the world and fought each other without restraint. Mortals were reduced to slaves, livestock, sacrifices, and food. Meng Fuzi referred to that period as the Dark Age. After many years passed, the sages of the human race gradually understood what the world had become and began searching for a way to change it. Starting from Suren, Fuqi, Shenong, Huangdi, and Zhuanshu, many sages established ethics, corrected rights, reduced punishment, concealed evil, and promoted good. Cheng Dalei summed it up by saying that the three sovereigns governed the world and the five emperors set its standards. Meng Fuzi said that over thousands of years, the world slowly moved out of barbarism and into a more ordered age. That process continued through Xua, Qin, Western Han, Eastern Han, the 19 kingdoms, and finally, the Great Kingdom. Cheng Dalei then understood the origin of his own power more clearly. When he first transmigrated, that force attached itself to him. Because of his own desire at the time, the power took shape as a mountain bandit system. That was the true origin of the system. Since he had crossed over with only a single soul, the power could attach only to that soul. It fused with him and produced the system administrator known as Hart. That was Hart's origin as well. By the end of the exchange, Cheng Dalei had uncovered a large part of the hidden past. Many of the guesses he had made about the system were now confirmed. The system informed Cheng Dalei that he had glimpsed ancient history and touched the secrets behind the system itself. That insight pushed his progress forward, and Hart's intimacy with her host rose as well. Meng Fuzi explained that the world always moves through the same pattern. Long periods of unity eventually break apart. Dynasties are replaced, and each age of disorder usually takes hundreds of years and countless deaths before it ends. When the killing is over, the surviving container holder rebuilds a dynasty, and ordinary people can live and multiply again. Hart understood the cost of that process at once, because when the people die in large numbers, the power mortals provide to the containers also weakens. Meng Fuzi said this was not a process of refinement, where chaos produces something stronger. Putting poisonous insects together does not create a goo king. The final winner is usually just a wounded survivor left standing after everything has been ruined. Even then, a new dynasty never lasts forever. Disorder returns, new container holders appear, and the same tragedies happen again. He called it a repeating cycle of history, then said that Cheng Dalei and Hart were the ones who could end it. When Cheng Dalei asked how, Meng Fuzi gave two reasons. The first was that the power now rested in Cheng Dalei, because he was its latest host. The second was Hart herself. Her birth meant the power had developed intelligence, instead of drifting blindly with the current, which also meant she would not pass into another vessel in the future. If that was true, then no new container would ever be born again in this world. Cheng Dalei understood the result immediately. If every existing container was destroyed, the world could enter a completely new era. Meng Fuzi agreed and said that without containers, future chaos would still be chaos, but warlords and rulers would no longer need to fight for 100 years over nation fortune. A new empire could last longer, and ordinary people could finally live in peace without relying on that protection. Once he mentioned nation fortune, his mood turned sour. He said that if someone had not destroyed the formation he set up, the empire would not have collapsed so quickly, and the thought still angered him. Hart and Cheng Dalei both remembered what they had done and immediately broke into a sweat. Meng Fuzi went on to say that the person who destroyed his formation was highly capable, since he still could not sense where that person was hiding. He said it was a pity, then drank in the middle of the silence that followed. Cheng Dalei forced a laugh and said it was not easy to find someone in a world this large. Meng Fuzi then asked whether the nation's fortune was now inside Cheng Dalei's territory. Cheng Dalei confirmed it and asked if he wanted to see it. Meng Fuzi sighed and said there was no point. It had already become a formless kind of luck, so it could not be seen directly, and it was no longer the Li Manzi of the past anyway. Looking at it would only make him sad. Cheng Dalei agreed because if the master learned that his friend's power had become a dragon, he would probably kill both him and Hart. Meng Fuzi then brought up Li Waner, saying that she believed Cheng Dalei was the one who would end the Age of Chaos. He admitted that she might be right and that Cheng Dalei was the better choice. Cheng Dalei asked whether that meant Meng Fuzi had chosen him to become emperor, then said that a decision like this should be discussed together with Li Waner. She arrived soon after. Cheng Dalei told her that she had recommended him, and now Meng Fuzi had chosen him as well, but nobody had asked whether he actually wanted to become emperor. Li Waner answered that he wanted the highest position in the world. Cheng Dalei did not deny that, but he questioned whether the imperial throne was really the highest position possible. He asked what would happen after the empire's internal chaos was settled, and whether he was supposed to remain there and live quietly after that. Meng Fuzi said Cheng Dalei's ambition was much larger than he had expected. He was not surprised that Cheng Dalei had already caused so much upheaval, despite not living very long. And he admitted that if Cheng Dalei had been a container holder, he would never have allowed him near the empire. Even so, meeting him in person was different from hearing about him, and he had not expected Cheng Dalei and Hart to be such a special combination. Cheng Dalei said that people like them, who had cheats, would not find it too hard to take the empire. Meng Fuzi asked what a cheat was, but Cheng Dalei moved on before explaining. Meng Fuzi then asked what kind of ambition could remain unsatisfied when 13 states and millions of miles of land were already within reach. Cheng Dalei answered that even after taking the empire, it would still be just a larger toad village in his eyes. His goal was the foreign nations beyond the empire, the much wider world outside its borders. After that, he intended to move even farther and conquer the Sea of Stars.